Good morning, folks. What a beautiful day, even if it is raining. Who cares? I'm reading my TAP magazine, just enjoying myself. It's Saturday again. Nothing like a cup of nice green tea to start the day off and to relax a bit. This green tea I'm drinking, Darjeeling in India. It's growing over there. Just have a look at the leafy substance we've got here. No, it's not dope. It's not for you pot smokers. This is legal substance. It's green tea grown in the hills of Darjeeling in India. It is first flush or virgin tea. Never has this plant been harvested before, and this is the first harvest. So you get a lot different flavours through tea that's just been first harvested. The best is always at the beginning. This tea is so smooth to drink. I'm a bit of a green tea fanatic, and I've drunk many types of teas, but this green tea is so nice, smooth, definitely not bitter. It's mild, but honestly, I'm addicted to this virgin tea now that I've started drinking this. It's worth paying a bit extra to have the better quality tea, in my opinion, and I just enjoy a cup of tea. We need to enjoy things in life. Things like this, and to pay a little bit extra to have the best is always, in my opinion, value for money. My wife, who's a coffee drinker, she doesn't understand why I would pay extra. She just doesn't see it. But you know, in life, we tend to pay more for quality, and that's what I've done here. I've paid a little bit more for quality. But look, guys, in the world of diagnostics, we are diagnostic technicians that we spend a lot of time, a lot of money to give our customers quality, to give them quality work. And they expect to pay for that, I know, because I have customers that continue to come to me time and time again. And the fact that we give something that we've had to work hard for, there has to be a quality premium to pay for that. So don't be frightened when we charge our customers, and just realise that they've come to us because they've got a problem. It's their problem, not our problem. But we're there to help solve their problem. And that does take time. Time costs money. Today we're going to be looking at some diagnostic preliminary things that I would do when I have a problem. I'll just enjoy this first though. Okay folks, I'm coming to the most important part that I consider when we do diagnostic work, and that is the time we spend in preparation, the time we spend in research and processing the information. So I'm going to do a study on my preparation work on a car. I'm not actually going through the process of actually fixing the car, but the process that we go through just to get ready for what we do next. We've got a Volkswagen Golf 2010. It's come in last week. It came in on about 3 o'clock on a Wednesday afternoon when everything's flat out, and the customer was a workshop down the road who couldn't get the car to tune properly. They put new spark plugs in and goodness knows what other parts they may have put in. But they realised that whatever they were doing wasn't fixing the car. So we brought the car in. About 4 o'clock we hadn't started the car, but the customer was already on my case to have the car back to him. So we put our scan tool on, and when I put the scan tool on, we did have a number of different trouble codes, but we also had something that really stood out. It's very important to look at some of the data that's coming out of that car at the time and see and look for irregular things in the PIDs that we see. And this car had a major problem with the timing. The timing was something like up to 6- degrees before top dead centre, so it was retarded badly. Okay, the car's running rough. I did put a smoke machine on the car prior to the scan tool, thinking maybe we could have a vacuum leak, and ruled that out straight away. The car is taking away fuel in the fuel trims, about long-term fuel trim, -25. That to me stands out. But the timing really stood out as well. So what I thought I'd do is, I didn't have a lot of time. I did a test on the compression, on a running compression on the engine. For some reason I just suspected timing, and I wanted to match up the problem with what I was seeing on the scan data with the compression waveform I get when I do a digital waveform check with using a pressure transducer. What we found was the timing was definitely retarded on that. The pattern didn't look right, and we'll have a look at that in a minute. So I'll just open that up now. Now we've got the compression waveform opened up in ShopStream, a Snap-on product, And it's not quite as good as Pico, but it'll do. It'll give us the info we need. We can see on the green trace, we have the secondary spark happening, and that spark is happening past the peak. The top of the peak here on this pattern is the top of the compression stroke. It's not quite top dead centre, but close enough to top dead centre. It should be at least 6 or 8 degrees before top dead centre at idle, which this car is, but in fact it's the opposite. It's retarded on the opposite side of the peak. So that stands out. The waveform looks a little messy. We'll come down a little bit here. If I actually use this as like a cursor, even though it's not, we can see that we're getting a much deeper vacuum in the compression stroke as it comes down on compression stroke. This point here where is the change of pressure on the pattern, that there indicates that we're now having the exhaust valve opening. That exhaust valve opens, obviously the pressure goes up as the exhaust, or as the pressure inside the combustion chamber escapes through the exhaust valve. We can actually have a look with some cursors on this. Let's have a look and we'll get some cursors up. I'll just, not curse, actually, yes I do need cursors. Just minimise this for a minute. Cursors, show, hide that. So we can get from peak to peak. We can see again that secondary KV line is a little bit over that line where the top dead centre line. It's not quite as far as I thought it was, but it's still out. It should be before. Okay, we've got our cursors there. We can see down the bottom here, we have 170.8 or 0.8 of a milliseconds of time between those two cursors. We know there's 720 degrees in rotation between those two cursors. We can calculate, and I can make life easy for myself. I've got a program that calculates that. I've actually already put all the calculations in prior. I'll just open this up here again. I've put the calculations in. So I've got the estimated times. This is only estimated. Each car manufacturer will be slightly different, but this is close enough for what we need. So the exhaust valve will open at 50 degrees before bottom dead centre. The exhaust valve will close at 10 degrees at top dead centre. The inlet valve opens at 10 degrees before bottom dead centre, and the inlet valve closes at 50 degrees. So we've got all that, and it's all up in here in the millisecond times. So it makes it so easy. So we'll just, we want to have the cursors out, not the cursors, the top dead centre scale out. Let's put some overlays down, folks. Overlays gives me an idea of the degrees of timing and when the actual events happen. So we come down a bit. Okay, I'll go to adjust that a bit more. Okay, it's pretty close now. So we know at 180 degrees, that's bottom dead centre. We know at 360 we're back at top dead centre. Again, bottom dead centre, and again top dead centre. We know we've got 4 strokes. This part of the stroke is our power stroke. This is where the pistons force down to bottom dead centre. About here is where the exhaust valve opens. So now we're having exhaust stroke. All the exhaust gases are coming out on this line here. From this point onwards, the intake stroke is happening. So we've got intake stroke. And as the intake stroke happens, somewhere around here the valve is closed. The valve closes, that's the intake valve. And then we have compression stroke. The compression stroke comes right up, and then we start all over again with power stroke. But guys, we know for a start up here, the exhaust valve should open at roughly 30.78 milliseconds, which is when the exhaust valve is going to... I have to actually move these overlays a bit because they're in the road of my cursor. Just pull them up a bit, there we go. Now we'll move this. Now we know it's going to be somewhere around there. Let's have a look. Well, that's 37, so already we can see the exhaust valve's out. Move it a bit more. 30, oh what was it? 30, yeah, we're going to come in a fair bit yet. 30, we've gone too far. There we go, 31. Look, it's too hard to get the exact, but look, that's roughly where the exhaust valve should be opening, I should say, and really it's opening down here. So we're out quite a few degrees there, which tells me we've got an issue with the timing here. Let's have a look at the inlet valve. The inlet valve actually opens. Where is it? Inlet valve at 42.625, which is about 10 degrees before bottom dead centre. So it's going to be close to here somewhere. So down here's where my milliseconds are. We're supposed to be at 82. We're nearly there, folks. But see the top dead centre mark there? There's a big kick up there on that 360 degree mark, and it shouldn't kick up like that, I don't think. And I think there's a timing with the exhaust valve and the intake valve. We're getting exhaust gases pushing that up when it shouldn't be. There is an overlap with the two valves when they open, just a few degrees overlap, and we may get a little bit of disturbance there, but yeah, I don't know about that much. But look, it doesn't matter. We know we have a timing issue, and that's my first port of call. But I like to use more than one proof, and I've decided I want to also do a cam and crank correlation check to see if they're out of whack, which I think they will be, and I thought that would be my next step. The only problem is I needed time to research and get more information so I know where my cam and crank angle sensors are and what wiring. I need to look at a wiring diagram. I need to, do all that, and I haven't got time. It's now, we're talking nearly 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The customer needed the car, so we've had to give the car back. So we received the car back again after a couple of days, and this is what we did. I did a lot of research after that, in that I looked at, I have different data providers. We all have data providers. I checked on Autodata, which is one of my providers, and it didn't have a wiring diagram, and nor did another program I use, Electrojet, didn't have that program either. So I called up Autodata and asked Autodata for this wiring diagram, which they gladly emailed me, which I have. I was able to check on that wiring diagram and work out my cam and crank sensors and where the computer is, which is underneath the cover where the wipers are, under the front of the car near the windscreen. So knowing these sort of things is vital, otherwise we're going to be bogged down pulling dashes apart or looking for components we don't know where they are. Cars today, we need the information before we start working. So this is part of the preliminary checks, is to get all the information so when the car's here we can flow with the car, and this is what we do. Now I found when we hooked up the sensors and we got a wave pattern, we found some interesting things as well on that. So we'll go to that now, guys. Okay folks, I needed a good reference to be able to check with my my lab scope that I use to check the cam and crank correlation on my car. Without a good reference to pinpoint the accuracy of the cam and crank being in phase together, without a good reference I wouldn't have a clue whether it's right or wrong. But we need to be collecting this sort of data regularly, and often it's not always easy to do, and there's always cars that we have come in that we don't have records of. But luckily we pool our ideas with other technicians, and TAT, who I'm a part of, we help each other out, and we can help many people out with information that we have from good known experience. Our experience pooled together makes a big difference. Now Rod Mayer, you probably have heard, or maybe not, but Rod has joined the TAT team, and Rod is a very talented technician. Now Rod has a website actually, scandata.com.au. Look him up. He has a pooled lot of scan data, that we can use too, because sometimes scan data, some of the live data we get, it's good to put a reference point to, and if we don't have any of our own saved data, someone like Rod has spent a lifetime collecting this data, and he's shared this freely with many of us techs. You can join Rod's team. Rod's also got a lot of written programs, and one of the programs he's written I'll be using today as well, which is a program to check and work out how far out of sync, if there is a problem with a known pattern like we're doing here today with the cam and crank sensor. So folks, I've just got this open. First things first, we need to measure. So let's get our cursors out first up, down here. I can think for a minute. Okay, so here's the top red pattern being our cam sensor. Let's measure from two reference points from there to there. So we have 76.32 milliseconds. So I'll repeat that. We have 76.32 milliseconds of time base on this pattern. So it's taking, the engine is taking Yeah, 76.32 milliseconds to do one revolution of the camshaft, or one full cycle, 2 revolutions of the camshaft. Okay folks, so we can put this in Rod's program that I've got downloaded on my computer, if I can find the program. Thought I had it open. Yes, I do. So we just change this. So would I say 76 signals from the crank sensor. Then we have 2 long signals. You can't see those, but I know because I've checked this. So we're going to measure from the beginning of the first long signal, the longer signal of the 2, from this starting point. This is our starting point, and now we've got a reference to here, and we now have 37.42 milliseconds. My eyesight's a bit hard to see on these screens. I wish they'd make them a little bit bigger for me. Now I'll get my, which one was it? This one here, and we'll put that in. So it's 37.24. So now we've got the timing base for our good reference. We need to get our other reference from our case study car now, so we'll open up that file next. All right. Unfortunately, I probably could have condensed this and had a better pattern to be able to work with, but I didn't, so I'm going to have to just change it until I get a signal here on my cam sensor where I can do a measure. Oh, hang on, I just saw one, I went past it. There we go, we can measure this now. So I get my cursor to this reference point, the same as I did before, and to this reference point on the cam signal. 84.47 milliseconds. Now what we need to do is look at our reference. Folks, I've just got my cursors where I had it on my good known reference one now. I've put it in the same place. See how we've got the short signal, and then we've got the longer signal. So it was just after the short signal we recorded the last time. We now have 42.6 milliseconds. So now we can put that into our calculator. 42.6 milliseconds. Now we do a calculation. Guys, I did this earlier, it said about 9 degrees. This is actually saying 11.8, but anyhow, it's obvious that we're out, and I think that's proof now. And if you think there's, I have a feeling I'm out of tooth, and the reason for that is, one of the most important things when your car comes in is to do a visual of the car. I keep saying this, I'm a great believer of a visual check, and to look for things that stand out. We noticed that when we were looking at this car that the actual timing cover looked very clean. It's very suspicious that it has been done. We do also ask and inquire from the customers all the prior history of the vehicle. They've got no clue of what's happened before. It's probably because this workshop doesn't think like I think, and probably didn't source the information, and probably don't know. But anyhow, we want to know whether it had been done or not, and we had very, very limited information. But I'm starting to think that we're out a tooth in the cam timing at this moment. Now, I didn't tell you, but before we did these checks, I also did a lot of looking at the scan data and also the trouble codes. I have a couple of different scan tools I used. The very first time the vehicle came in, I used my Rostec scan tool that I have on my laptop. It's a very good scan tool for Volkswagens, Audis, and it's got so much superior information on that. And I might open that up now. We'll just close this down for a minute. Oh, here we are. I logged the file with my Rostec with the scan data. Now we have a lot of codes here. We've got, for example, this one here is found that the barrow pressure sensor, which is our map sensor, is playing up. Look, it's showing that this has been fault has been frequency. It's been frequent for 254 times. To me, there is a major problem with the map sensor. But before I get too carried away with wanting to check the map sensor, knowing that my ignition timing's out, knowing that my valve timing's out, our vacuum's out. I didn't put a vacuum gauge on this. It would have been good to have, but I didn't. But I know we've got bad vacuum. I'm not going to be too worried about this sensor today, and when the vehicle comes in, we're going to have to sort out the timing on this, or the workshop might have to sort out the timing, but the timing needs to be sorted out before we look at issues like a map sensor, because we know the vacuum's not going to be accurate. Also, I've got something here, control limit exceeded. We know because of that, again, we know the timing, the engine's not running right, the timing's out, so I'm not worried about that at the moment. We've got multiple misfires, goes to say, doesn't it? So look folks, all these codes I take on board, but when I know that there's underlying issues, we need to fix those underlying issues up, and that's part of my process of working it out. Now guys, this car will come back a third time, or I'll present this information to my workshop people. They will either do the work themselves to investigate further with the information I've been able to provide them, or preferably the vehicle may come back to us and we can have a look at it. But again, there's been some mishap happening, and I think that really from what I've got here, I've got enough evidence to believe that there is need to pull off that timing cover and doing the job. If we go rushing into this job without doing all the necessary preliminaries, you know, we waste more time than it takes to do what we've done. I've taken a while to video this, but normally this would only take me an hour or so to do, but a bit longer considering I've had to talk to other people, other TAP members and other technicians to get information. But the more information we have before us, the better it is. The job card is an important part of my information. I've recorded a lot of information already on this job card, and we keep working on the information we get, and we keep pulling that information till we get a direction. And it's getting a direction is the important thing, that we get the right direction. We don't rush into these things. Folks, I want to finish with this email that Rod sent me, Rod Mayer, who has much more experience with compression waveforms than what I do. Now he's got his own program. As I said, he writes a lot of programs, and he's actually used my compression pattern that I sent him, and he's put that into his program with all the graphing and whatnot, and he's written a few comments here, and he's talking about this lump in the in here just before the inlet valve opens. Normally there's a crossover between the inlet and exhaust valve where they have a moment before, you know, a few degrees between each other as they're both opening and one's closing. But in this case the exhaust valve is closed early, and because it's closed early, it's didn't allow all the exhaust gases to leave the combustion chamber. Therefore, when the intake valve opens, it starts to build up pressure when the exhaust valve closed early, and then when the intake valve opened, then down it comes again. So the pressure is relieved through the intake system, but not the as the intake system opens, it's sucking in then and starts its cycle again. And he's also saying that the intake valve will have no effect, and that's right, it has no effect on the pattern in this area here. You cannot see in this pattern if the intake valve is opening early or late. And so that's another point he was putting across to me, and I very much value his input. And yeah, I just thought I'd show you this and end with this. We have no doubts that we have a timing issue and so much evidence, so I hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks. So folks, I want to thank you for allowing me to share this with you. This is a very important, what I believe to be a very important part of diagnosing, and I hope I've left some impression on you to perhaps realise what goes into diagnosing before we can actually put a spanner on the car. So much time is needed, and it needs to be done correctly. Thank you folks.